Hello, David McMillan here, and I found yet another. In fact, I'm pretty sure this is really the very last one of the lockdown talks that I did with Shaun Attwood. People seem to like them, and I guess we get along pretty well together uh, when we've got something to argue about. So I'll run that in a second. But I'll tell you what, and I'll say this at the top because, well, who sticks around to the end of a video? I'm lining up some, well, what I hope to be interesting people to talk to. People from different countries, people who have some insider knowledge or perhaps a little expertise in different fields. Now, if there are some people you'd like to hear from, perhaps, well, I won't say interviewed, but with whom I can have an interesting conversation, what area would they be in? What field? Is there something you'd like to know about? Do you want to hear from an insider in a particular area? Well, let me know, and I'll see what I can find. Okay, I'll get on to it now, and this is the very last one of that great period that we look back upon fondly, the time of lockdown 2020, with Shaun Attwood and I talking a load of nonsense. But we actually get into the nuts and bolts of the new laws that were coming in and how people were taking it. Here it is. 1, 2.
This is £1,000.
Wow, that's good packaging. I don't know. I mean, I've pulled a lot of these things apart, and I can find the same. You know, all those televisions like Polaroid, for example. That's a name. Or something that says Kodak. Because those companies don't exist, they sell their name on.
Right.
And whoever's is the rights holder to the name licenses it out for different things. So,
well, this is the same one we use in the studio, the Rode.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wonder whether it's
Skype. Perhaps next week we should try Zoom and see if there's a difference, because I've done a lot of Skypes, I've done some Zooms, but because our equipment is the same every week, we could compare one of our Skypes to one of our Zooms and then actually get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, it is odd. Considering that the quality of that mic, it should be good. Yeah,
it's because it's an online recording. It's not a studio.
I know.
It's a whole different thing, isn't it?
If I listen to my own sound as it comes back, it seems a little better.
Well, you've got really good internet, and you've got a good technical setup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on what they call fiber, and if I chase my copper line all the way down the street to a green box, I can see a bit of fiber going into it. I used to use those green boxes. They were quite handy.
Have you done the internet speed test?
Yes, I've got 33 down and about 10 up.
Okay.
What are you getting there?
550 down and about 30 something up.
Oh, well, that's plenty good enough. But of course, we're kept by what Skype's own limitations.
Yeah, it's Skype's limitations. So I've seen people that have got the most expensive setups in the world, like True Geordie interview people.
Yeah.
And even he's getting freeze frames and stuff. So I don't think it's soluble.
No, probably not.
If the other person's got shit internet, I was interviewing Billy Hayes, and it kept crashing. He's got shit internet. We're gonna have to reschedule it when he's got better internet.
Right. What he can do is, where's he calling from? The US, is it?
He's in Vegas.
And I think they'd have good. Well, they probably do have good internet somewhere, but I think
a lot of people are cheapskates, aren't they? Though they just get the lowest package.
Well,
that's all they need, really. They're not setting out to do webcam interviews, really, in their lives. A lot of them.
No, but look at it this way: we're getting pretty good video here. So, considering that audio's a breeze, isn't it? Because it's a lot less bandwidth being used on it, so it should be okay. Yeah. Even if you get him to check into a hotel for the day or something, and he and that way use the hotel's internet's got to be better.
I think it was his first webcam interview, so he's
Really?
he's just learning the ropes. I did manage to. I got about 20 minutes salvageable that I'm going to put up, but
Yeah.
I want to do a whole hour plus when he's got his setup better.
He strikes me as a bit of a pro, I must say.
He's got a,
Professional at
he's got a good vibe. He's a good talker.
Yeah. It's I don't know. To me, it's a little artificial because he's in a way too good, in the sense. But I probably seem quite artificial myself at times, I suppose. So
Most Americans have got an artificial streak.
yeah, don't you find it's why it's very hard to pick out the knacks there, because one, they're shameless. And a British informer will betray himself by just certain amount of queasiness, but it's just part of the thing. A crook I know from years ago said, "No, in the US these days it's part of it. If the deal goes south, it's the first one to the finish line when it comes to the deal making."
Well, thank God my co-defendants didn't think like that.
No. I mean, could they have made it worse for you?
Oh yeah, there was over 100, and only 4 cooperated. And
Okay.
Sammy the Bull's case was 2 years before mine. All 57 cooperated.
Wow. And they're
Yeah.
supposed to be, top level guys as well. Mind you, they do hand out some time over there, don't they?
Are you ready for me to start then?
Yeah, we might as well. I'm just running through where we're at. We're going to kind of do a bit on the loss of rights that we have, and I'm going to argue that we never had any anyway. So.
Oh yeah, the London Real David Icke situation. Yeah, we
Oh,
discussed.
have we got a code word for 5G yet? How about 5F?
5F. That's
Yeah,
gonna like that. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of like 5 fingers. One's
F.
coquettish, 2 is serious, but 5, that's the
Oh yeah,
fifth.
we could just go G.
Yeah. I'll say this on there. It was something about the Next network. You heard of that? What's the guy's name? Gary Shithead or something.
Introduce you then, so you can say it on a.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. All right. Let's go.
People, we are back with our weekly coronavirus lockdown chats with David McMillan.
Hello.
If you're not familiar with David, he's the most regular guest on the True Crime podcast with 8 episodes, some 2 to 3 hours long each.
That'll put people off. Yeah. Go on.
David has his own YouTube channel, and the link is in the description box below this video, as are links to his 2 books, which I urge you to read, because you will see David is a wordsmith with gallows humour, delivered with a professorial Queen's English Australian accent. If you don't know what that is,
well, it's a deceased Australian accent, an accent that's just gone with the wind, and only a few old people have it. But I'm one of them, and thank you, Shaun, for your introduction. Yes, I think most people will know that I'd been careless in my smuggling career and ended up facing the death penalty twice. And when things got too bad, I had to escape from Bangkok. But that's all behind me now, and I've survived, and I think I'm the lone survivor. And what qualifications do I have to talk about the coronavirus threat and lockdowns? Well, plenty of time inside and dealing with horrible, life-threatening situations. So I guess that's a little qualification, huh?
What was the biggest life-threatening situation you dealt with?
Well, oddly enough, the ones outside of prisons and authorities were probably more realistically life-threatening. On the Afghan border in Baluchistan, though, here's the thing, Shaun. I always tried to make myself more valuable alive than dead. That's always a helpful thing. But in that part of the world, they really know you never kill the golden goose. In the prison there, if the guards wanted to extract more money, they would punish my servants, not me, because that would be overdoing it. Well, up to a point. So
People are scratching their heads at this point and saying he had a servant in prison. Did I hear that right? How is
oh,
that
yeah.
possible?
Well, just for people who don't know, the Pakistan prison system and the Indian one inherited from the Raj, and within it they have a class system, A, B, and C. So C is the common herd. They eat, I don't know, some chapati and beans off a newspaper on the floor, 160 to a room, that kind of thing. But B class for people, the law says, accustomed to a better lifestyle. They really meant, well, what would it be? People with money. But people with education counted if you had a degree. If you were a taxpayer, such a rare thing in Pakistan, that entitled you to B class. So you could get a couple of servants. And they were other prisoners, and they'd want the job because they had nothing. They had no money. And having no money there meant you couldn't even get to court to have your case heard. So by working as a servant for one of the moneyed class, after 6 months it was good form to kind of release your servant by letting him go to court for the first time in 5 years, which only cost about £50 or $60 or something like that. And usually the cases were so old and mouldy they'd get thrown out. But as I say, if there was pressure to be put on somebody, in the same way that the villains over there, to a degree, hit the workers of the big crooks, mostly they leave the families alone unless they're brothers who are involved in it. But you were asking about how life-threatening things were. And although I could get shot from time to time just by misreading a situation, that didn't really... I mean, after all, Shaun, you can imagine even in your dealings in Arizona or, heading towards Mexico, something's going on you don't know about. It's completely misunderstood. That could happen. There's a shootout between people, and they don't... well, they always say caught in the crossfire, don't they? But it's really not the crossfire. They're aiming at you. That wasn't as frightening as being out of control, having your hands tied. And in the court system there, a few people were executed. In Thailand, some were executed. Very rare for a Westerner, but I'd been told that I was loathed by enough government agencies around the world so that they could make a good example of me. So it was best to leave, I think. And so 7 walls and a couple of passports and 2 plane trips later, I was a free man. But it did take 2 years, so maybe not such a great achievement. But I saw somebody else escaped from a Thai prison, a local boy. Does it count? Well, hats off to anybody who escapes. But he was already just about out the gate, due for release in a month on something. And they've all been recaptured. So far, I'm the only one who has yet to be recaptured. But I think Thailand's accepted that they've lost that particular chase. So what's been happening in the week of lockdowns, and any shift in public mood that you can see?
Not really. I've not been focusing on it, to be honest. I've been just absorbed in trying to get as much down as possible for my new book, Who Killed Epstein.
And
Yeah.
you would have you had some guy who spent 13 years researching the Epstein thing.
Yeah, Ryan, his level of knowledge was absolutely mind-blowing. He started researching Epstein when Epstein was first arrested and he got that sweetheart deal. And I've also just interviewed Ari Ben Menashe. This one's going out on Saturday night, and he was working in the highest levels of Israeli intelligence during Iran-Contra. Was working with Robert Maxwell, so he knew Epstein, knew Ghislaine Maxwell, and this is like a real insider account.
Wow, it could be good. I'm sure it will be. And I'm reminded too of something before we came on air. I've been getting a lot of coronavirus, breaking news, sent down WhatsApp by, half-wits who don't look too closely. Shaun, surely, if somebody comes to me with something startling to say, my first reaction is to put aside the supposed breaking news that I've been told and ask myself, where did this come from? Where did you get it and where did they get it? And how old? How many hands has this passed through? Because the ones I've been getting are from something that looks like a local TV station. It's called Next News Network, and the front for that is a YouTuber called Gary Franchise or something like that. And he'll get it. It has the backdrop, the graphics, everything like a news studio, but it's probably his basement done up a bit. But he's got a 1.5 million subscribers, so I guess he can do it pretty well. But people just soak this stuff up. I didn't even really look at this one. I think it was with somebody who is a doctor of something. Probably got a PhD from the University of Southern North Dakota or something like that. And I think it was one of the stories that runs that the whole thing's an entire hoax. There is no disease. The hospital deaths are being dressed up to look like something else. And what is it about people that are almost happy to receive something like that? Do you think they're being relieved or what?
I think it's human nature when the brain is agitated and there's a global story, a threat like what we've got right now, for people to try and find these things to occupy their time. And there's so much information out there. I started out interviewing people with a range of opinions on coronavirus, and that's just continued. We've just seen it become so contentious. We saw,
Is it because people don't believe their governments, I suppose?
People don't trust the government, which is understandable. The government just lies to us all the time, with mainstream media.
Isn't it silly? They get caught out on trivial rubbish, which wrecks their credibility. I noticed too that anybody who's not even government, anybody who's a high flyer, change.org, which is signs a lot of petitions and gathers a bit of money for change of something, change of their own financial status, I'm guessing. Richard Branson is the target this week. And supposedly the petition is going to compel him to shun any government help to bail out his airline. I think the one in Australia has gone bust. And use his own resources. Well, I mean, there's pretty good reasons why any person shouldn't use their life's earnings to back up a business that is on the edge. But kill the rich, that's what it is, isn't it?
Well, I think that all of the airlines are technically bust right now, and the government will end up probably saving over half of them, governments around the world, because of the necessity of flight.
Well, there's that, and I think the lesson from the 2008 financial crisis was don't go, back to 1929 and do nothing, because you end up with dust bowls. So, but nonetheless, in the video age, we still get the breadline queues, don't we? There's a lot in New York, people getting pretty meager handouts, really. I think I'm proud to say that the bread lines in Britain supply a little more groceries than they're getting in New York. But,
And you've got the big pharmaceutical companies trying to profit now. I noticed there was a huge bounce in the biotech index in the stock market. Companies like Gilead, which Bill Gates has got an investment in,
yeah.
you could see there was a turning point where they decided, right, we're gonna make a lot of money off this situation.
Well, what a vaccine or some other kind? I don't think they're up to that yet, are they? But there are a few other treatments which are being promoted, and I think dear Donald Trump was grinding the old axe on something or other. It was slightly toxic, and you could die from it. But he was saying it was a possibility, showing promise.
He needs the economy back open
Well, that's his big
so he can
thing,
get
isn't it?
re-elected, because he was banking on the stock market being high and unemployment being low. And the virus has come along and he can't negotiate with it, so he must be a bit frustrated. But he's got
I don't think
this.
he needs to worry, really, because do you think in times of crisis, people are going to say, "Oh, we'll take the next alternative"?
I knew that
And
was coming.
yeah, well, no, I like Joe Biden, but I don't think people are going to. They'll go for a businessman anyway, just on the basis that things will need rebuilding. Um, I mean, some people who've never been. I don't know whether presidents really can affect very much what happens in the economy or countries, really, except make them worse. In fact, pretty much that's all they do. Although I hear, have you heard this story? Romania is fining people massive amounts for breaking the curfew. The mayor of Bucharest was fined a couple of $1,000s last week for riding a bicycle across the town square. And that revenue, it's I think 68 million in the last month, is more or about at least half of the tax that they get from corporations anyway. So, well, it
Well,
could start here.
well, now Guildford Council is allowing anyone to park for free anywhere. All the meters are off. I'm surprised they've not got people out handing out fines. Any way they could shake down the public and get tax money off them or fines, these
Well,
parasites will do.
oh, there were. I noticed that quite a few little groups of parking ticket writers were out today, and I hadn't seen them for a week or so. I was
Oh,
travelling on essential business, as you may understand. Uh, I think my dog wanted to look out the window of the car, but so I think they're missing that revenue, and because they really haven't got anything else. But finally, governments are more or less accepting what they should have told people a long time ago, that there is no cure until the vaccine comes along. Well, of course, that's a preventative, not even a cure. And otherwise, we can ease the lockdown, but it's not going to make any difference. People are. I think if there is a change of tone in people, okay, what have we got? We've got in the US, people are saying enough of the lockdown. We want to get back to work. I don't think that's very far from the majority. But we British have a different view. In fact, I think, judging from my area anyway, people are happily sliding into the warm bath of inactivity. They're masterfully doing nothing, and with great skill, actually turning a page of a book or staring out the window. Somebody's
watching
got to do that.
watching Don't Fuck with Cats or Tiger King or Ozark.
Yes, yes. I'm halfway through, or three-quarters through Ozark at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Um, I didn't. I hope Ruth gets her vengeance, and I suspect that her new boyfriend might do it. People, if you haven't seen Ozark, it's certainly worth watching, and start from the beginning of season 1, or you won't get it. You know, Jason Bateman, who is the lead in it, what was the family comedy that he was in? I mean, that's what he was known for. He was the Leave It to Beaver type dad, you know, a real, you know, it was such a corny. I don't even think I sat through a whole one of them, but it was a US sitcom, and this is quite a reversal. He is, for those that don't know, um, his his boss, a Mexican drug lord, has come to believe that Marty Bird, the character, is kind of just like him in a way, that he wants to win and will control his emotions at all times. But the Mexican boss doesn't do that at all times. I think he lost a cleaner due to a carelessness for something. But no, most of the people I hear about have kind of TV'd out. There's a new social phenomenon because of being really underscored by lockdown in communications. I don't know whether you've noticed it, but especially amongst the women folk, that's particularly popular. This is having conversations by snippets of recording. Instead of, Shaun, you and I might ring each other and a few terse words and a couple of gags, and that's it. Our business is done. But this is record on WhatsApp, hold your finger down and release the recording. Oh, Jenny, listen, I was going to ring you this afternoon, but are you in now? Release, click, played the other end, click, record, back the other end. Yeah, I'll be free later on, but did you hear about such and such? And this will go back and forward until there's a unrelieved stream of these little messages. As students of human nature, and all your viewers are, or they wouldn't be watching, what can we make of the fact that it's preferable to send out your communications in little editable fragments? Do you think it's a fact that you can withdraw a WhatsApp message in the first few seconds if you change your mind, or what?
I think that the world, everything is speeding up in terms of how we communicate with each other. So when I'm writing my books, when I'm doing my emails, when I'm doing my texts, everything is completely dictated to my phone. So if you're sending a voice message instead of taking the time to type all that up, it's probably so much faster for the person to do it. You don't have to check your grammar or anything like that.
No, that's true. But also, even these streams go on for quite some time. There's something like 30 exchanges back and forth. You know what? I think if there was a commitment of social intimacy in actually going to meet somebody for lunch, then a phone call would do. But now we've stepped back further. What you get is little strips of paper, as it were, instead of a letter. These little one-line conversations back and forward, so that the senders in each case, they're not really committed to what they say. Though I should say they can argue with the thing. There'll be people who argue with this device, but it's curious how it will change.
I'm waiting for someone to take it to the next level. So, for example, every Saturday night, you turn your computer on, you've got your webcam in your living room, get your house music on, start dancing. All your friends are dancing in their living rooms all over the world. And somehow your computer projects a holographic image of all your friends around you, and they're all around you dancing in the living room. And it's like they're all right there, and you're just having one big party.
So when you say to your virtual friend, "You're not drinking much tonight. Go on, have another drink," he's compelled to slug one down.
Yeah, in his own living room, he would do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I can see some. And when you're sick of it, when you want to leave the party, it's just a flick of a switch. Sorry, bad connection, all that kind of stuff. It could be. And also, I think you're right. And I expect there to be a moderator will come in, as in, "Hey, Google, tell Shaun he's got his head up his ass when he's thinking about trying to do it that way. If he, watched his own videos on how to, he'd know what he's doing. And then you'd say back, "Hey Siri, tell Google to tell David he's a complete." Oh, Siri's just woken up when I mentioned her name. Yeah. Oh, let's go back to sleep. Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I'll need to download one according to Siri. Of course, that's the answer to everything, isn't it? Well,
the big thing in London was the David Icke interview with London Real.
Yes, he's in trouble for that one, isn't he?
He was talking about.
Oh, gee, that's interesting. So, he got demonetized, I believe, because of that.
Ike's entire YouTube channel got completely demonetized without any warning, and so have several other YouTube channels that have not been towing the line with the World Health Organization view of the virus.
So far, this punishment, well, of course, YouTube's reason for doing anything is because they don't want to look bad. But in terms of the application of it's not the law, but the commercial law here, it's only for violating health-related standards, is it?
They give a list of reasons, and I think David Icke read them out on a video.
He would. He'd read the telephone book on a video. Given a chance.
From what I can recall, he was saying that something to do with hate, motivating hate. Because London Real, they took the live stream down. That was going to get easily 10 million views within a week, and they took it down because the BBC contacted YouTube and asked them to take it down.
Spoil sports. Really, why? Because it was a competitor. BBC won't save their audience that way. They'll have to, they'll have to do more with their videos of the day, really. In fact, they'll have to start, they'll have to get down and dirty and scrabble with everybody else for the viewers, because to watch BBC videos at the moment, you've got to be on the news channel and then go to the video. I think they're going to kind of have to accept that for younger people, if they want to have them, they'll have to go along with it. Yeah, you're right. It was just commercial reasons they did that. But
and there was some burnings of some.
Oh yes,
towers.
There's some damage to some of the machinery involved in all of that, which is pretty. What's Luddite, isn't it? You go and that was the Victorian age protesters at the automation of machinery in factories, and they wrecked the machines. Or I think it might have been carpet weavers and looms, but that era of protest has been around for a long time. In those days, it was, well, it's taking our jobs, but now it's making us ill. I think I haven't really identified the people who've been up to that sort of mischief, kind of pointless waste of energy, really. But if you've what was the last big protest we had? What was blocking the streets? Oh, it was the Extinction Rebellion, wasn't it? There was a core within that could be seen at. I mean, if you didn't have these people, your protest wasn't worth a pinch of salt, really, because they were real professionals. They had the full range of types of people. They had people of every nationality. They had the people with the greatest disabilities. I think they had somebody that was virtually a head in a chair, and they'd wheel him out. And it's very hard. I can see the strategy there. It's difficult for police to slap the old handcuffs on somebody who's virtually a cripple. And technically, in this guy's case, it would have been impossible. The cuffs would have slipped off his tiny flailing appendages, which sprouted from that neck. But they they're good. The people who just like validation that the world's going to hell and it's the end of days. No, that's because their life was always going to hell and they never seemed to get anywhere, mostly. If they had some satisfaction in the way they lived, they probably wouldn't feel that way or something better to do. You used to be able to rent those people if you had there was an organizer and she would, book them in. Oh, look, sorry, we're, next week we're doing big oil and there's some genetic engineering, that you don't know where you'll be with that, but I can get you in for June or something.
Is that a spin-off of the claqueur profession?
um, Well, it's a very old-fashioned word, and a clerk with CLAQUE, professional clappers and those who adore you. I've never heard anybody actually use that word before. I must congratulate you, Shaun, on that one.
I can't say it in the Australian Queen's English though, with finesse like you.
Oh no, it's a. I presume you're right. It does come from French, from the way you pronounced it. Um, and I think we were. I suppose. It's easier for the police to sweep the protesters away because of the provisions of the new legislation. I forget what it's the name of it, but I think it's who was it? Somebody from. Oh, that's right. Liberty's director, Martha Spurrier, said it's the most draconian bit of law ever to be produced in the UK. And though it's got provisions to be reviewed, it pretty much gives the authorities powers to do anything to anybody. Um, Isolate them, carry them away, move them on. As we know, fined for not having a valid reason, and who decides what's valid, after all?
Have you been pulled over by the police on your essential travel?
No, I've been doing my best, but even though I marched through a deserted London Bridge station, you know, um, and smile at the police and make towards them, but they shy away from me, Shaun. I don't know what it is. I feel like one of those Hollywood actors who says, "Well, I can't even get arrested in this town."
Was it
Uh,
because you were wearing a Panama hat?
um, no, it probably is because I was actually going to do some work somewhere and had my ungainly toolbox dragging behind me on wheels. And
Like one of the plumbers?
I suppose so. Though I was a little worried a couple of days ago. I needed a crowbar to use in moving an old fence for a security camera. And I thought, this isn't good, David. I pulled out with a bag with crowbars and jemmies and lock-picking equipment, which I use too, because many people just say, "Oh, you're going, David. Well, just let yourself in. I forgot to leave the key." So I'm known for it. I suppose I could claim that on my tax, a deduction on lockpicks, I suppose. Um, the um, the the easiest one, not that you should do it, but if you get locked out and you can't find anything else to get into your own house, cut up a Coca-Cola bottle. You'll find that the plastic is just the right springiness and on the right angle, so that when you slide it in kind of against the curve over the night latch, which is shutting your lock, you'll be able to get back to your own place. um, but no, they haven't stopped me. Perhaps they know. They say, "That's that loudmouth, David. Don't get him started, whatever you do." What do you mean? I ask him for his reasons. He'll be here all damn day. I'll start declaiming with the oratory of one of the Roman senators or something like that, or some Southern Democrat who's trying to. Well, what do they call it? I forget the word. It's gerrymandering. No, that's something else. When you're trying to block a piece of legislation by debating it through its session.
Oh, I can't remember the word for it.
Yeah, people will tell us, no doubt. But It's not that I would go on that long, but I would say, and people should know, you never had any rights in the first place. Now, we live in what government do we have? A constitutional monarchy, Shaun. Interesting tangle of ideas in that one, meaning that every bit of law is given royal assent. So our dear Queen has to say, I like that. Yeah, I'll sign off on that one, or not, and say, I don't know what you're talking about. Come back tomorrow. I presume if she says no, it goes back to Parliament or the House of Lords, because it still goes through there, doesn't it? Anyway, the point about all this is that we have no Bill of Rights. So we have no constitutional right of things that people accept as imagine they have the right of free speech, assembly, that kind of thing. And really, free speech has never been free or a right at any time here, or come to think of it, even in places where it's constitutionally in print or handwriting anyway, as in the US. It is there, but there are 5 significant exceptions to that, mostly to do with the military and incitement of hatred, which is intended to result in injury to somebody. I suppose so, but it's very lightly applied in the US, where it's a little more widely used. And you heard of the ASBOs applied to people for YouTubers who were musicians, rappers are and a couple of grunge artists have been had ASBOs applied to their videos.
Do you want to explain to the American audience what that means?
Yes, I should. An ASBO is an antisocial behaviour order. What it means is a judge has the ability to give a sentence that is not, say, community service, but a set of rules under which the released person must adhere to, or come back to the court and perhaps go to jail. They're a bit like the US restraining order, don't go near such and such, but they're wider. They can restrict certain kinds of behaviour, not to ride a bicycle, not to go skateboarding, not to be out after 10 o'clock. There doesn't seem to be any real limit to it. And I think our American friends will probably bring up something that is kind of similar to that. But that's been around before the COVID-19 rules came in. And even though it is kind of much more in our face, I mean, we walk out and we have these I am legend empty streets when there's nobody around. I think it's great. And I think our fellow Englishmen believe it's great too, Shaun, because it can go on forever as far as they're concerned. The Americans seem to be shocked that they've had whatever it is, perhaps 20 million applications for social relief of one kind or another. But I guess they shouldn't, because the social net's not quite as generous as it is here. But I suppose Americans might see our system as near enough to socialism, I would think. They'd feel that way.
Americans are fierce over their independence more so than Europe.
Well, as in government interference, don't like it.
As in, give me liberty or give me death!
Yes. Of course, the first people to say that were a bunch of rich lawyers, but still. And it was other people's deaths they were talking about. And, they were actually very, very lucky, Shaun, in a way, that had the opportunity to start a country from scratch on a good, firm British basis. I mean, even after independence, most Americans still refer to them themselves as Americans politically, but often would in conversation use phrases like every born Englishman should be entitled to this, or as an Englishman I feel that. It was a couple of generations before there was something kind of uniquely American. I think that probably came about as the states felt they slowly started to stop referring to each other as, the New Hampshire man or the Virginian and so on. But as as Tom Hanks' character in Bridge of Spies says, what makes us Americans is not where we came from. He was from an Irish background. The CIA agent he was talking to was from a German one. He said that what makes us Americans is our book of rules, that this is the game we play and how we play it. And it was based on a true story, by the way, and the guy who was the lawyer did arrange the release of downed U-2 spy pilot Gary Powers in exchange for somebody called Abel, who, though he spoke with an English accent, a slightly northern one, was in fact a Russian undercover agent, which was just as well for him. But here's the odd thing. In France, I think they think of themselves in a national sense of having a book of rules, the French way, and following the French Revolution, various good and bad things. But of course, they all want a chateau and a title. Though English people really don't think that much of a title. Our titled people have disgraced themselves in so many ways that you really wouldn't want to be one of them. But now, is this good or bad? The fact that everything here is got no basis in law. It's what they call common law, and so when you go to court, you're entitled to a jury. When you go to court, you're entitled to representation. Sure, there are bits of practice that give rules for governing all of that, but it's by far from a right. We don't have them. In fact, there's more statutory rights in countries that Britain has granted willingly or otherwise its freedom to. Canada has a Bill of Rights. It went through in 1960, but here's the interesting thing, and I kind of like it. It still had to get royal assent by the Queen's representative in Canada for all of their laws. So their Bill of Rights is an act of their parliament and therefore is not ingrained in any constitution. It can be changed, modified or rescinded, whereas the US Bill of Rights, I think, is an amendment to the Constitution, isn't it? I think it was a tack on there.
Let's go back to what you said about the different attitude of different countries, because I'm fascinated by crowd psychology. I read a book when I was a teenager. I think it was McKay, Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds. So right now we have got something happening that's never happened in our lifetimes, and it's like this massive real-time experiment on crowd psychology. Would you say that people are so programmed to go to work that the opportunity to just have leisure time at home is so contradictory to what they're used to, they just can't handle it? They just want that routine in their lives.
I think that's very much the case, and because of what you say, what we're witnessing is a little taste of the future. That is, when the robots and the machinery, the honest day's labor disappears in the conventional sense, and that we have taken a little jump, courtesy of a tiny string of DNA in the virus. And, okay, certainly damaging in some senses to the economy, but I think this will go on long enough and business will adapt enough. You know, the people who are working from home, a lot of them will be told after it's all over, no rush, Frank. You've been doing pretty good from home. You know, come into the odd meeting. Who's there? It's Frank. We don't, and don't let him back in. People will, suffer for it. Some Franks will be thrown out, but others will be rewarded for their fine work from home. So that bit of automation will go through. But also, what the point of what you're really saying there, with people have this. It's the extension of the hunter-gatherer, isn't it? You run around to get your food, and that's your day's work, and you go out to a place of employment. It's no longer the factory, but it's somewhere, and you do various things. You know, obey orders from somebody, put your hands on some object and make it look like some other object, or write a lot of tosh and send it to some message. But nonetheless, it's work. People are being asked now to imagine themselves in a future where they're not told what to do. They have to devise things for themselves. Now, domestic violence is up by 150%, I think. So it's kind of fraying on people. It's been quite civilized, I guess. I mean, I read some.
What's wrong with these guys? They've got all these hours now for spooning and making love, and they're beating their women up.
That's true, but those blow-up dolls, they get worn out, and the puncture kit doesn't work anymore.
Grim Reaper's Diary Keeper. That is fine.
There's, what they used to call them in my parents' generation, those dolls, Japanese wives. And as a little kid, I thought, I don't look Japanese. But of course, they meant that Japanese wives traditionally used to follow behind and slavishly obey the man of the house. I had it completely wrong. I thought, men's toy dolls all look like Japanese people.
I did watch a documentary about these men who were in love with these dolls they could have sex with. I think it's called Real Dolls or something like that.
And those very expensive ones, aren't they?
Yeah.
They look pretty damn good.
Not as good as the holographic projection in your living room of,
You have to add one other element to your party machine, Shaun, and that is a haptic device, something that has feel to it. And it can be done technically with rows of tiny loudspeakers. There's a couple of devices around now that if you hold your hand above it, those little speakers make it feel like you're touching the surface of a ball, for example, or patting you nicely on the head there, Shaun, or, the cold steel in your hand and the caress of the trigger, depending on how mad you are. And there have been some quite good bits of fiction about that, hasn't it? I think She was one.
Deus Ex Machina, was that the more recent one? Was that what it's called?
Yeah, Ex Machina, I think it is, in the old-fashioned way of saying it. But that was a bit of a letdown, but I think Hal in 2001 told us more about machine thinking than the girl who was in Ex Machina. She ended up as I've just. She tried very hard to.
Let me change the subject then.
Okay.
So for people around the world, what proportion of those people now do you think, now they've got over the shock of this and they've accepted it, what proportion of those people do you think are working on self-improvement, like using this time out now to reflect, wonder whether the job I've been going at for the last 10, 15, 20 years, do I want to do this for the rest of my life and just die? And do you think people are having epiphanies? Do you think people are using this to transform themselves?
Well, you know what? I'm just going to put my congratulatory hat onto that one, because that is the most optimistic view of the world I've heard all week, Shaun, that people are ever going to do anything different. I think, sadly, not. My jailhouse experience tells me that as they behaved in jail, they behave outside. And those who kept themselves busy or studied something, or even if they were up to no good, dealing on the wings or something, did things and were active. Those guys who uh, sat in their cells, which were pigsties, and did fuck all day except slob around, that's what they were outside. So, in using the same thinking, the people who are not taking any advantage of this, perhaps fearing that their free time will go away and not really wanting to know what to do with the gift. There's a lot of courses out there on offer. You don't have to go far to find. Well, even the people who used to go to a gym to take a few years off their life, they they're being sent to not to protect their gym membership, of course, but do it at home videos. I think there is a bit of uncertainty to that. To take on a course, you've got to say, well, I'll need at least 3 months. But look, have you noticed yourself any slowdown in your daily life since this thing happened? I bet not.
I have stepped up my exercise. I'm doing more. I'm going out, doing my jogging, doing my walking, and my work just got more intense. When there's a situation like this, I think that there's a hell of a lot of opportunity out there for people to succeed in things outside of the rat race. When businesses are crushed, going bankrupt,
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh.
people are selling, businesses now at pennies on the dollar.
Oh, buy oil, yeah.
Oil went negative.
People
One of
pay
the
you to
oils went
take it.
negative. Yeah. So I think once you get over licking your wounds in a situation like this, you could see, all of the opportunity that's out there, and it could be a good bridge for people to get out of the rat race and start their own businesses, because all the competition is getting wiped out, or they're selling the businesses for peanuts. And you could perhaps take that over somehow.
No, there is opportunity there. I'm sure you're right, and also I'll take my hat of optimism off now, Shaun. But still, that was the most hopeful thing I've heard all week about. People will. I think we would need about a year of it to sort out the wheat from the chaff on that one. It's a bit like short sentences in jail. Pointless waste of time, just a administrative detention in a sense. But really, you're right in the sense that people should be thinking, how is the world changing in terms of the way work is, and what is work, and what is it that I'm doing in this new world? It's really a good opportunity to do that.
It's the biggest opportunity in our lifetimes to reevaluate what the hell we are doing with our lives.
And you feel there's a significant percentage of people doing that?
I don't know. I just hope that they are. Prisoners, it's forced upon them. You got this fast-paced life, cops and robbers looking over your shoulder, never thinking about what you're doing, the consequences.
Yes.
Bam! SWAT team, handcuffs, you're in that jail cell. Wow! All of a sudden now I've got all this time. I'm going to put my life, watch it like a movie in my mind, and review everything I've ever done, analyze my mistakes, analyze my friendships, and absorb all the lessons learned and change the direction my life is going in from here on out.
Shaun, it does sound rather much like you're advocating a little bit of bang up for everybody, and
We've
that
got it.
this what the great lockdown is the best thing to happen to a lot of people. They're not really going to jail. They eat better than prison food, and it's not. They get a bit of exercise time, more than you get in prison. So here you've got what Adolf Hitler and many others have said: there's nothing wrong with a bit of jail to get your bestseller done and whatnot.
Go
Uh,
inside your mind
mm,
and make a plan while you've got this downtime. I'm telling this to the people out there, hopefully to
yes.
inspire them. Make a plan while you've got this downtime to take the steps to where you want to go. If you've reflected on your life and you feel you're just going through the motions, I'm sure there's loads of people out there who love the jobs, maybe
Mm,
self-employed people, really enjoy what they're doing. But, I heard a video today, and it's one of the reasons I'm saying this, and the guy said most
right.
people are living quiet lives of desperation. And when I
Mm,
heard that, I thought, good grief, well, I hope during this lockdown they're taking the time out to go inside their heads
mm-hmm.
to plan the necessary steps to get to a place which would be, maybe they've dreamt about and they've just got stuck in this rut. You've got the time now to make the steps, to take the steps, to plan the steps, to get to that destination, because people without direction have no destination.
That's true. I mean, you should have been a motivational speaker there, Shaun. Really, I felt a little glow of predestination there.
Can you see
Uh,
my green aura?
it was, and in fact, some of my correspondence since doing book signings, and I insist on a bit of a bio from anybody that scribble a personal message to. Some keep in touch, and a lot of them have been writing that this is, uh, they kind of were expecting something big to happen, and now it's made me think about what I'm doing. Of course, some of them are completely cracked and believe it was all um, you know, their personal world. The truly selfish do that. They think that world events happen for their particular personal development. The Titanic went down and I lived. God was telling me something there. What killed? God killed 1,200 people just so that you could learn to swim. I mean, what? Mind you, he works in mysterious ways, Shaun. I shouldn't laugh at his means.
Yeah.
Uh, um, I so you're predicting in a way a bit of a long lockup or a
I
work
have
revolution.
I have no idea. I think that I see the optimism in Trump, but you can't negotiate with a virus. At the rate this thing is mutating, we don't even know if how effective a vaccine is going to be, what risks a vaccine are going to present. And I know they're
True.
doing these trials right now. I think in Oxford, it's been in the news or something like that. Wave two, wave
Yeah,
three.
yeah, yeah.
These things, they hop around the
And not
world,
only
because if they
that,
infected everybody at the same time,
yeah,
they would have nowhere to go. They hop around the world and come back to where you were.
wearing a different jacket. Yes, they
Yes.
do. Not always white, so you know it's the good guy.
Yes.
um, oh, a nice shade of blue there. I think that's the corporate takeover blue you've got on this evening, is it? Uh, yeah, I think it's a bit of a trader's, that one. Oh, by the way, how does one, as a professional, when the price of a commodity is negative, in other words, you've got to go to your regular customers and say, no, do you want to buy my oil? I will pay you $10 a barrel to take the damn stuff because I need to keep my the refinery going, or when the refinery does. I mean, how does a trader profit by this?
Okay, so if people are not driving around, then there is a backlog of oil.
Yeah.
So the value just, that was only one oil market that went negative so far. the main oil markets have slumped, but they've not gone negative. But if you want to profit from something going down, you embark on what's called a short sale.
So you predict ahead of time that it will go down, and you fix your price.
So let's say it's trading at 20,
mm,
and you think it's going to go down to minus 10.
right.
So let's say you sell 100 short at 20,
Mm-hmm.
which is a £2,000 investment, let's say.
Okay.
And it goes to minus 10, then you have made 30 points
I see.
on your 100.
Mm-hmm.
So you just made £3,000.
Of course, because this is a bit unusual, if you're going to short something, to go into less than zero, does that work still as a trade?
Absolutely, and that's why it went there, because the markets trade, no matter what.
I see.
If there was a lot of people long that commodity, and they all started to rush for the exit at the same time, that would cause the price anomaly of it being marked into negative territory, because as they scramble to get out, the market makers see this line of people who are desperate. They spike the price down to take advantage.
Oh, I understand. So in a way, it's not as it might be perceived that somebody is paying X to actually take the oil. It's to make the transaction happen. They have to take that loss, or whatever it might be.
The market makers spike that price down, take all those people who are panic selling out of the market. Then it goes back up, and they've made the profit. But we're getting to the hour now, David. Anything you'd like to say in conclusion?
Yes, just a couple of things. One was that, in fact, we'll probably talk about this more at another time. It was about whether the phone apps for detecting whether you've come into contact with somebody who has the virus, which will this I think there's something. Yeah, it's going to be used in Italy by a software company called Bending Spoons, which is appropriate. That was old Uri Geller's thing. But my bit of lockdown advice, I guess, well, it's kind of domestic, Shaun. It's to do with the coffee machine. How to keep the peace in a family where all the communications have suddenly become virtual, but whoever you're living with, you have to please them and the other people. What am I talking about? A birthday. Whose? Jeanette's. When? Yesterday. Coffee machine comes. I know it's coming. I'm supposed to take delivery of it. But I say to Gloria's daughter, look, we've already got a coffee machine and it's crap. It's one of those ones that doesn't have the frother. Oh, but I've already bought it. Well, frankly, it makes shit coffee. It's like getting something out of a vending machine on a railway station. Any way of pulling it back? No, it's too late for that. Then defensive. But listen, it's better than the one you got. It's DeLonghi this, DeLonghi that. The longer you wait, the better it gets, So coffee machine arrives, and I'm saying this because it's one thing to be dispatching with villains on an Afghanistani border, but it's a different thing living in a household full of women. Coffee machine comes. Do you return the gift? Say it's no good? In this virtual world where Amazon is delivering everything, make sworn enemies amongst the family. Well, what happened to the birthday gift? I didn't like it. Why? That bastard David got his technical nose in it and wrecked the whole thing. So what was the answer? Answer is, tell devoted daughter, coffee machine came, is wonderful. It's so much better than the one we had. It's great. It's more powerful. Did you know? 1600 watts. Makes great coffee. What about David? Well, there you are. I mean, that's just him, isn't it? He makes mistakes every time. He's the idiot. And then if it comes to it, and I know my daughter will never see this, so it doesn't matter if I say so. I agreed to be the mug in the piece, who've made the wrong choice and got everything ass backwards as usual by interfering. So no matter what you do in your real lives when it comes to lockdown, guys, take it on the chin. Just if you have to play the sap and, oh, Joe, it's you again, wear it with grace. And that way everything will be peaceful. Don't worry about reputations. They only mean something across the border, in Vegas, elsewhere, not in lockdown. There we are.
And David and I will be your claqueur.
Well, that's the last of them, I'm afraid. But I hope to be lining up some other people to talk to very soon. And all being well, by the time you actually get to the end of this one, there should be a little clickable link somewhere floating around on the screen. And that will take you to somebody else. So, where do we go from here? While I have your undivided or extremely divided attention, a neighbour visited this morning, and she was talking about how she was furloughed and then she's out of a job, and there are a lot of people that are out of work or been bounced. You know, many of the companies that took the government's coin, the Queen shilling, to keep people on during furlough, the big ones had to kind of stick it out or do something clever, but most of the middle to small ones have taken the opportunity to restructure and sometimes even dump themselves. Yeah, they've turned from the ABC company with 15 employees to the XYZ company with none, and they take on new ones. Where does that leave you? Well, you probably already know. And I've been talking about other things, kind of futuristic outcomes of artificial intelligence and how work will be, and if it will be. I think really, let's try and get ahead of the game. You create your own job. You might think, well, that's easy for you to say, but no, it's not really. There are things out there that you can do without really stepping out from your home. Don't get lost in the internet, but actually make that effort to dig out your old notes and memos and post-it stickers and put into effect that scheme you had. In fact, I'll go so far as to, use my dazzling years of incompetence to answer questions you might have on that. You know, you've had some great idea for something that might involve some technicalities. It might be online. It might be part of the great YouTube thing. But no, put it this way, I'm not taking advertising, well, not knowingly. And so I won't monetize this channel. You can be safe from that. You know why? And they start to, if you ask to take the advertising on and get paid for the YouTube channels, for the first time they actually take a look, YouTube that is, at what the hell you've been up to. I don't think I'd scrape through somehow. In fact, I could end up getting blocked, I suppose. So I'll find another way to earn a living. Yeah. Anyway, that doesn't matter. I'm talking about your problems. Get that old idea out. This is the time. You could say fate has given us an opportunity to reevaluate how we spend our time, our days, and earn our living. You'd be surprised what you can do. Anyway, it'd be good to hear from you on that score. Just don't click away all day. There's something that you have and you've taken on from whatever you're doing, and it could be turned to some value. Anyway, let's see who I can find that will be a good sparring partner on these things. I'll see you soon.